Picture this, you're at a dinner party and someone casually mentions they just bought a Tesla. Your stomach tightens, not because you want a Tesla, but because you're currently doing mental math to figure out if you can afford the appetizer you just ordered. Here's the wild part though, that person with the Tesla, they might be one medical emergency away from bankruptcy, while the guy in the 10-year-old Honda sitting next to them could retire tomorrow if he wanted to. Wealth isn't what it looks like from the outside. It's something completely different. There are 7 distinct levels of wealth, and most people spend their entire lives stuck between level 2 and 3 without ever realizing they're trapped. Each level has its own invisible rules, its own psychology, and its own specific dollar threshold that changes everything about how you experience life. And here's what blows my mind. The difference between level 3 and level 4 is only about $30,000, but it's the difference between constant anxiety and sleeping like a baby. My name is Megan. I'm an accountant, and here I share smart financial tips that anyone can implement today. If you've ever felt like you're working hard but not getting ahead, or you're confused about what financial milestone you should actually be aiming for, make sure to subscribe and hit that like button. This breakdown is going to show you exactly where you are, where you're going, and what specific number will get you to the next level. Now, before we break down these 7 levels, let me paint you a picture of what we're actually dealing with. According to a 2023 survey, 78% of Americans are living paycheck to paycheck. But here's the crazy part. That includes people making 6 figures. I've seen it over and over in my work. Someone earning $120,000 a year who has less financial security than someone making $45,000. Because wealth isn't about how much you make, it's about how much you keep, how you think about money, and which level you've actually reached. The first 3 levels, those are survival mode. You're firefighting constantly. Your check engine light comes on and your heart rate spikes. You see your friends posting vacation photos, and you feel this weird mix of happiness for them and panic about your own situation. You're doing the grocery store math in your head. Can I afford the name brand, or should I get the store brand? Do I have enough for this week, or do I need to put something back? That's levels 1 through 3, and roughly 60% of American households are stuck there right now. But something remarkable happens when you cross into level 4. Your nervous system actually changes. I'm not being dramatic. There's neuroscience research showing that financial security literally rewires your stress response. You stop living in that constant low-grade panic mode. And the number that gets you there? It's probably lower than you think. Which we'll get to in a minute, but first you need to understand how these levels actually work. Level 1, survival mode. This is where your income barely covers your absolute necessities. We're talking rent, basic food, utilities, and that's about it. You're making somewhere between minimum wage and maybe $35,000 a year, depending on where you live. At this level, there's no buffer, none. If your car breaks down or you get sick, you're going into debt or you're not paying another bill. About 13% of Americans are at this level, and it's brutal because you can't even begin to think about the future. You're in pure survival mode, just trying to make it to next Friday. The psychology here is exhausting. Every single purchase is a calculation. You're not thinking about retirement or investments. You're thinking about whether you can afford soap this week. And here's what people at higher levels don't get. It's incredibly hard to make good long-term decisions when you're in this mode because your brain is literally in crisis mode all the time. Level 2, paycheck to paycheck. You're making a bit more now, maybe $35,000 to $60,000, depending on your location and situation. Your bills are covered. You can eat reasonably well, but you have essentially 0 savings. The rent is paid, the lights are on, there's food in the fridge. But if you lose your job, you've got maybe 2 weeks before everything falls apart. This is where roughly 45% of Americans live. And here's the trap. You look fine from the outside. You might even have nice things because credit cards exist, but you're one bad month away from level 1. I spent 3 years at this level right out of college, and let me tell you, it's this weird psychological prison. You can't say yes to the group trip because you know you won't have rent. You can't take the career risk because you need this paycheck in 2 weeks. You're stuck, but you're stuck in a way that's not obvious to other people. Level 3, small buffer. This is where you've managed to save somewhere between $1,000 and $5,000. It sounds modest, but it's actually a huge psychological shift from level 2. You're making maybe $50,000 to $75,000, and you've started to build a tiny cushion. Your car breaks down and you can fix it without going into debt. Your dog eats something expensive and needs emergency surgery, Tuesday, and you can handle it without a credit card. But here's where it gets really interesting. You're still anxious, because $3,000 in savings sounds like a lot until you realize it covers maybe 1 month of expenses if you lose your job. You're not in survival mode anymore, but you're definitely not comfortable. You're in this in-between zone where you've tasted a tiny bit of security, and now you're acutely aware of how fragile it is. About 20% of Americans are at this level, and it's almost harder than level 2 in some ways, because you can see the next level, but you're not there yet. Level 4, the sleep well threshold. Here's where everything changes. You've got $10,000 to $25,000 in actual savings, not retirement accounts, not investments, just cash you can access. For most people, that's 3 to 6 months of expenses just sitting there, and something remarkable happens to your nervous system at this level. You stop checking your bank account before every purchase. You stop doing the mental math at restaurants. You can say yes to the occasional spontaneous plan without anxiety. And most importantly, you have what I call walking away money. If your boss is a nightmare, you can quit. If you get a terrible diagnosis, you can take time off. If your car dies, you can buy another one tomorrow. You're not rich, but you're free in a way you weren't at level 3. This is the level where your relationship with work changes. Because here's the thing, when you have 6 months of expenses saved, you stop acting desperate at your job. You negotiate better. You set boundaries. You take smart risks. I've watched people at this level get promotions they never would have gotten at level 3, simply because their energy changed. They weren't coming from scarcity anymore. The math to get here isn't as crazy as you think. If you're at level 3 with $3,000 saved, and you can set aside $500 a month, you're at level 4 in about 18 months. That's less than 2 years to completely transform your stress levels and life options. Level 5. Invested and growing. You've got the emergency fund handled, and now you've started investing seriously. We're talking $50,000 to $250,000 in actual investments, not counting your home. You're contributing max or close to max to retirement accounts. You understand compound interest not as a concept, but as a real thing happening to your money right now. But here's what most people completely miss about this level. It's not about the dollar amount. It's about the identity shift. You're not someone trying to get wealthy. You are someone who is building wealth, present tense. You look at purchases differently now. Not, can I afford this, but what else could I do with this money? That's opportunity cost thinking, and it only really kicks in at level 5. At this level, you're probably making $75,000 to $150,000, and you've cracked the code that took me embarrassingly long to figure out. It's not about making more money, it's about keeping more money and putting it to work. You're focused on your savings rate, your investment allocation, your tax strategy. And here's the kicker, you're probably spending less than you did at level 3, even though you're making way more. Because you've realized that the fancy stuff doesn't matter as much as the number going up in your investment accounts. Level 6, financially independent. This is where you have somewhere between $500,000 and $2 million invested, and at a 4% withdrawal rate, you could theoretically live off your investments. You might not retire. Most people at this level don't actually want to stop working, but you could. That's the entire point. Work becomes optional. I have a client who hit this level at 47, and she described it as like someone turned off a noise I didn't even know was there. She still works, but now she works on projects she finds interesting instead of projects that pay the most. She volunteers more. She invested in her friend's business. She has time and money and options, which is basically the definition of freedom. Here's what's wild about level 6. You don't need to be a millionaire to get here. If you live in a low cost of living area and you've optimized your lifestyle, you might only need $600,000 to maintain your current standard of living indefinitely. But if you're in San Francisco with expensive tastes, you might need $3 million. It's not a fixed number. It's about your specific life. The people at this level start thinking in decades instead of months. They're not worried about market volatility this week because they're thinking about where their portfolio will be in 2045. And that long-term thinking creates this weird calm that people at lower levels can actually sense. Ever met someone who just seems relaxed about money in a way you can't quite put your finger on? They're probably at level 6. Level 7, generational wealth. This is the level where you have more money than you could possibly spend in your lifetime. We're talking $5 million, $10 million, $50 million or more. At this level, you're not just financially independent, you're thinking about legacy. You're setting up trusts, endowments, foundations. You're trying to figure out how to pass wealth to the next generation without ruining their work ethic or their character. Only about 1% of Americans ever reach this level. And here's something that will probably surprise you. A lot of them are more stressed than people at level 6, because now they're dealing with different problems: estate taxes, wealth preservation, family dynamics around money, the psychological weight of having so much while others have so little. It's a completely different kind of stress, but it's still stress. The people I know at this level often live more modestly than people at level 5 trying to look rich. They drive Toyotas, they live in normal houses, they shop at Costco, because they figured out the secret. Once you have enough, more doesn't actually change anything. The difference between $3 million and $30 million in terms of day-to-day happiness? Pretty much zero, according to every piece of research on the subject. Now, here's where most people mess this up, and I see it constantly. They hit level 4 or level 5, and they immediately lifestyle inflate themselves back down to level 3. They get a raise, so they upgrade the apartment, lease a nicer car, start going out more. And suddenly, that $15,000 emergency fund doesn't feel like 6 months anymore. It feels like 2 months because their expenses went up. Or they hit level 3 and they think, finally, I can afford that thing I've been wanting, and they blow their entire buffer on something that depreciates. I watched a friend do this with a boat. He spent 2 years building up $8,000 in savings, then bought a $7,000 boat, and within 6 months, he was back at level 2, stressed about money again, with a boat he used twice. The trap is thinking that the levels are about what you can afford to buy. They're not. They're about what you can afford to lose, what you can afford to walk away from, what you can afford to say no to. They're about options and freedom and sleep quality and stress hormones. The boat didn't give him any of that. It actually took it away. Here's the truth that took me way too long to understand. Climbing from level 1 to level 3 is mostly about increasing your income, but climbing from level 3 to level 6, that's almost entirely about decreasing your ego. It's about buying the boring car and keeping the money. It's about staying in the smaller apartment for 3 more years while your friends upgrade. It's about realizing that impressing people who don't care about you is the fastest way to stay broke. Your goal isn't to look wealthy. Your goal is to be wealthy. And those are completely opposite strategies. So here's what I want you to do. Figure out where you actually are right now, not where you look like you are, not where you want to be, where you actually are based on liquid savings and investments. Then identify the exact dollar amount that gets you to the next level. Not 2 levels up, just the next one. Level 2 trying to jump to level 5 is how you stay at level 2. But level 2 focusing on getting to level 3 with $3,000 saved, that's achievable in less than a year for most people. And then here's the most important part. Once you get to the next level, sit there for a while. Don't immediately change your lifestyle to match your new income. Let the gap between what you earn and what you spend grow wider. That gap is your freedom. That gap is your options. That gap is the difference between building wealth and pretending to build wealth. Start building that foundation today because your future self is counting on the decision you make right now. Trust me, they'll thank you for it. The fancy car can wait. The bigger apartment can wait. Your financial security cannot. Buy the boring car, keep your money, build your life.